Welcome to another episode of Binge Watch. I'm Gig Patta. I'm a writer and interviewer at LRM Online. I'll let my co-host here introduce himself.
I'm Emmanuel Manny Gomez, also writer for LRMonline.com.
All right, on this episode, we are doing a spoiler review once again, but this time around, we are doing it for Netflix Project Power. That stars Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And in this movie, it's a film. I think it's almost a 2-hour film. In this film, it's about, strangely enough, it's about like these drugs on the street of New Orleans that basically could grant individuals, if they consume the drug, they grant them superpowers in its own way, which is, and when I say superpowers, it's random superpowers to all these individuals. So before we actually get into the nitty gritty stuff of Project Power, let's go ahead and start with first impressions. Manny, what did you think about Netflix's Project Power?
To be honest, Project Power was a missed opportunity, I think. They had the star power for it, and I think that they had a good base for a story, and then just the wrong delivery. And for me, I was a little hyped for this just because it seemed like it may have been, because, okay, I don't know if you liked it, but I liked Bright. I thought Bright was fairly good. And I thought maybe this could be something, I mean, it's its own thing, but maybe lead to a sequel. But, Jamie Foxx isn't necessarily a bad actor, and neither is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So I thought that it was going to be better.
Okay, well, I'll be honest with you. I like Bright better.
Good. Okay.
than this film. So this, I don't know if it was a missed opportunity, but I could see why it went on Netflix. It was sort of like there was this movie that just came out a few weeks ago with Charlize Theron that it was like all hyped, that it could have been in theaters until you watch it and you're like,
right, yeah,
it shouldn't be in theaters. This was like one of those type of movies, right, where you hear the star power, Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, this should be, in theaters, and then after a while it was like, no, this should not be in theaters. So let's first of all let's talk about Let me bring up my major problem with this. My major problem with this was actually the CGI. And this is the reason why I don't think it should be in theaters, because it was not impressive. It was not like, this was something that I probably would not want to see on the big screen, because they introduced all these superpowers, which is it's very much a copycat of, like, superhero movies and so on. They had a guy who could, turn into flames. They had a woman who had like all this frost. There was nothing original, but which I understood. If you're going to copycat, that's fine. But how they did it, it looked either too cartoony or too fakeish on my small screen. So I could imagine if it was on the big screen, it would look even worse. So I don't know if you agree with me, but that's my impression of the CGI in a film like this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It was just a little bit better than sci-fi CGI, I think, and it felt like they had gotten the same guy who did the graphics for Fast and the Furious. You remember when every time they would hit the NOS, you'd see the compound go through and then into the motor and kind of explode, and then the car take off. It was kind of the same thing, that they would twist the pill and then take it, and then it would do like whoosh, and then into the cells, and then whatever, and the next thing you know, it's a flame guy, or they just blew up. It didn't work out, which I will say I did like that aspect of the superpower, which is, it's not always going to work. Sometimes it's just not, your body's not going to take. The other thing was, I did like the fact that they kind of grounded it as all the superpowers are based off of things that we took off of living animals. So it gave them like a semi-grounded take on superpowers. It's like, oh, it's a genetic modification, but they had to take it from actual living creatures, which is a good I thought it was a good explanation. The execution of the powers, though, it was just they didn't really do much with him if you really think about it. The guy who was in flames, he just really burned an apartment building down. Jamie Foxx took him down by dousing him with water. And then the lady who turned kind of into frost and ice actually just ended up like a snowman. She crackled and died.
Yeah, she didn't really do it.
She didn't really do anything. And then one of the bigger bads, or the guy who was pushing the drugs, he becomes this Mr. Hyde type giant dude from Van Helsing, and he's coming down, and he gets taken down almost immediately just by igniting some gas. And so I'm like, what are we doing here?
And by the way, I think that was the worst CGI, because that did remind me of Van Helsing, or the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
League of
Okay, where they basically had like Hyde and Jekyll or something like that. And that was the worst parts of those movies. And then when they did this, and I was like going, no, that's
you can tell they wanted to keep their CG budget low, because they made those moments very, very quick. And so, yeah, I agree. That's probably the worst part of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, but as for the drug stuff, I don't know. I personally was kind of iffy about that kind of stuff. I understand where it comes from, like the animals. I didn't really buy into that explanation. Is because if it came from the animals, I don't understand why everyone has like a randomized power. It should actually be like, it should be like somehow we are genetically linked to specific powers.
Okay,
or something like that, because it's going to be revealed that Jamie Foxx was linked to a specific power that he always had. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was linked to the same power. It's not like where you're taking a chance, okay, and you take the pill and then you just get some kind of random power. There just should have been like some kind of explanation why that guy was always like a fire guy, or why that girl basically became like Frost Woman, that kind of stuff. Like there should have been like an explanation, like maybe it's like maybe they had sushi or something like that, or I that kind of stuff. They just never really explained to it. And the thing that bugged me the most was this entire movie, it's Jamie Foxx trying to save the daughter, who is basically, I don't want to call it patient zero, but it's the one that these villains, the biotech firm, was extracting all this genetic material to create the drugs from her body. And if everything was coming from her, why was she the most vulnerable character in the entire movie? Like, as if everybody has all these superpowers, but patient zero doesn't. Did I miss something? Or
she had? Am I wrong that she had healing powers?
Yeah, something like that. But
yeah,
like you would think she would just have all the powers, right?
She should have been she should have been more important. And then they had her just like no guards in a cargo ship. It was really, with all these baddies or whatever that were on that ship, they were able to get to her very, very easily. And then the other thing I didn't understand was when when they get to her, they're taking her out. She's like super weak, and then I'm like, oh, what's going on? Like, there's a link that we missed? And then they completely forget about it. Next thing, she's just in the ship. She's fine. And I was like, wait, what was that all about? I didn't understand that part either. And yeah, it just I guess Jamie Foxx's character, when she transferred that to her or something like that, and it was it was it was a little bit. You're right. It was a little bit contradictory in the way that they assigned powers and then said, "Oh, everything comes from animals." I forgot about that part. That everybody has that one specific power. It's not like they can. It's like I want the fire breath today
Yeah.
pill. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, if it was truly random, then I would completely understand. Like every time you take the pill, you're taking a chance. But
Yeah,
I don't understand like when that one guy took the pill and then he blew up. To me, it's like what he didn't try the pill before. You know,
right. Yeah, that's a good point.
that kind of stuff, and so that kind of threw me off. And not only that, the climatic battles that was on the cargo ship.
Mhm.
What the cargo ship was called Genesis or something like that, and it's like a biotech cargo ship. That made no sense to me because why are we having a cargo ship that has no cargo?
Yeah.
The only cargo was like a bunch of thugs and one woman who has all this genetic material. They didn't even have a laboratory. That's how cheap this movie was. Like,
No, they had a boat.
yeah, it was not like a floating like laboratory or floating hospital or anything. It was just they just was like going, you know what, this is a cool place to do a final combat scene. It just didn't make any.
It wasn't even that cool either because you remember that what's her name in the Robin, she's
Robin.
the one controlling the doors, right, to get from one place to another, and then at one point she has to leave the security room, and so then a little bit later uh, Art and Frank, which is Jamie Foxx's and Jordan Gordon-Levitt's character's name, are trying to get through a door, and it's like she's not there, and then they're like, okay, and then they turn and stairwell, and I was like, wait, what? That was funny to me. I was like, well, what's the point of the doors then?
Yeah, there. This movie, the rhythm was definitely off. Well, let's talk about some of the characters first. So let's talk about Jamie Foxx's character, which is Art. What do you think about Jamie Foxx's portrayal of Art, and what do you think of the character overall?
That was so bland. I didn't. He at the beginning of the movie, I don't even get the first sense that he's looking for his daughter. It's not until later that he kind of has these PTSD moments or whatever that you really understand, like, he's looking for his daughter, and then you get this big story about how he when she was born, she was given the trait, she has natural powers, and now this is where everybody's getting their uh, they're able to make the pills and stuff like that, and I'm like, wait, but what were you looking for then back there? Like, you weren't really defining what you were doing. I wasn't even sure. Like, or were you a cop? Are you a regular person? I wasn't too sure. And then, how do you find this guy? Like, does he have a phone number or something? Because you're supposed to look for him. And I found it really bland and underdeveloped.
Yeah, I wasn't so sure what was to take with Art or Jamie Foxx. I thought, I like Jamie Foxx as an actor himself. The character was kind of like kind of going around in circles. Even if he was looking for his daughter, it was sort of like really, you spent all this time and you just like finally like found her.
Just now, yeah.
But then that I didn't really have too much problems with that. What I actually have problems with was that he was getting into all these fights. He fought like a fire guy. He fought a bunch of drug dealers in a basement of a check in a cash store. He fought a bunch of soldiers on a cargo ship without any powers. And throughout this entire time, I thought he had superpowers. Like that. Like I was like, no normal human being could do all of that for a 2-hour movie. And turned out to be, he didn't have any superpowers until until he took the pill at the end. And when he finally took it, I was like, such a letdown for me. Like, what is he? He's just superhuman? It didn't make any sense to me. So that was my only issue with the Jamie Foxx's art character. I guess the other main character will be Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Frank character, who is the New Orleans cop. What was your impression of Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Frank?
I wasn't sure what I was supposed to see him as. Was he supposed to be an undercover cop, a detective? Is he supposed to be a rogue cop that's deciding to take the law into his own hands and take these pills? Because he was taking the pills. He gets shot quite a few times. But I guess his superpower is just like armor strength or something like that, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think it was like a rock skin or whatever,
something like that. And then at some point he was trying to be funny. There's that scene with Robin's mom, and so I was confused as to what kind of persona he was supposed to have. So was he more like an anti-hero? Was he somebody out of like a training day, or was he somebody out of like Cop Out? Like where am I supposed to take him? Where seriously, and where is he supposed to be funny, or where is he on that scale? And actually still to the end, I had no idea what I was supposed to think of him.
I find it hilarious because I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he kind of like took a break from acting for a while, and now all of a sudden, just like recently, he did this movie, and he also did that pilot movie on where he plays a pilot on the terrorists took over the plane. It's on Amazon Prime right now. I can't remember.
Okay.
But anyway, so he's starting to come back into acting since I believe his brother died, and that's why he kind of took a break, and so on. But as far as like the character Frank, I found it hilarious was because Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Southern accent was like going in every single direction. Okay, because I get it. It's New Orleans. You come up with the Southern accent, but the problem was he was coming up with like a Southern accent, like he's from Georgia or like South Carolina, but it didn't sound like a person from like Louisiana, like that kind of stuff. And then I do agree. I couldn't tell if he was like a detective or undercover cop. And then I was like totally confused was because him and his partner drove in this black and white car. And I was like, what are they? Dressed in plain clothes, but they drive an official police car?
Right, yeah.
I was like confused. And then I don't even know why they even bothered introducing that he had a partner. Like his partner was just there at the bank robbery, and after that, it was like you never see his partner ever again. It was kind of confusing, but otherwise, I think he was the most likable character in the movie. But that's not saying a lot, sadly. His power was actually impressive, but it was just kind of funny. It's because he only activates the power because he's anticipating to get shot. Like as if like, you know what, I'm gonna take the pill because I'm gonna get shot. So I like that was because it's the opposite of Jamie Foxx, where Jamie Foxx never took the pill, never gets shot, and somehow he's still superhuman without taking the pill. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt gets shot every single time. Just the only thing weird to me is that there's like a 5-minute like lapse for the powers to basically stay in the system. So he had a stopwatch keeping track, which I thought was kind of weird, is because I don't know who else has the 5 minutes lapse because I want to say the bank robber was more than 5 minutes because technically he robbed the bank. He had the powers. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt chased after him after, and they basically both ended their powers at the same time. So that basically means that some people actually had the powers for more than 5 minutes, and
either that or they took multiple pills and they just weren't specific about it. That would
but then they should have explained that in the
at least show him pop another one.
Yeah,
that would have made sense.
And they didn't do that. I guess we should also touch upon up and coming actress. I believe Dominique Fishback, who plays the girl. I'm trying to remember what her name is. The girl Robin. What do you think about her? She plays a teenage girl drug dealer who later on helps Jamie Foxx's Al and Frank and trying to finish all this out.
I felt kind of bad for her because I didn't think she did too bad in her role at all. As a matter of fact, there's a scene in the beginning where she's in the classroom, and she's actually having a daydream where she actually talks back to the teacher, and she becomes this badass rapper and then leaves or whatever, and everybody hurrahs. I felt like the girl next to her did more for her than Jamie Foxx did the entire movie. Just elevating her, because for a character like that, I feel that I felt like, oh, so this movie kind of is going to push her up into the spotlight. It's going to give her a little bit more exposure, which it does anyway. But usually, kind of just like in wrestling, they'll pair a new wrestler with a veteran, and despite the flaws, this guy's going to carry you, and you're going to look good. I felt that Jamie Foxx's character didn't really do that, and while Gordon-Levitt's did a little bit, just overshadowed by his presence as a celebrity, and then just not really as two characters interacting. So I didn't have an issue at all with her character. I just thought that the support, there was no support around her to kind of push her up.
I found her character actually interesting because she's supposed to be the most grounded character out of out of the three, and but I also found it interesting that she was the one who knows how these drugs work. She sells them, and she's the only one that never took them. And being in the situation of all this stuff happening around her, like, how do you resist on not popping one of those pills? Like, you're being shot at. You have all these, people with these enemies with powers coming at you, and you manage to resist all that. I don't know if it's because maybe they just didn't want a teen to actually, take the pill or something like that. Like, she's supposed to be the innocent girl, but she's not the innocent girl. She sells these pills on the street. So she, as an actress, I believe Dominique has and like any young actress, I think she actually did a pretty fine job of portraying the character. But I think you're right. I think she wasn't supported by very much by the other characters and so on.
You're never supposed to get high off your own supply. Rule number 1.
I don't know. It depends on the situation.
You might.
If I was on a cargo ship and there's like 100 mercenaries with machine guns,
you might think, I can see that.
Might change my mind. Well, let me talk about the weakest part of this film, the villains. I think the villains were incredibly weak. Why? Because you don't even know who the freaking was the villain in this movie. Because you would think Rodrigo Santoro was the villain. He's the one who became, that guy and there. And I loved him in 300. He was the king that was trying to destroy everybody. But it was sort of like I barely even recognize him, and all he was just like pissed off. And then the other villain was that I don't even know who she was. She was like, sort of like, oh yes, I'm the mastermind of it. They didn't even really like talk about her or introduce her or nothing.
No, she got introduced late.
Yeah, and their entire diabolical plan, because this is a spoiler review, their entire diabolical plan was just to distribute the drugs to use everyone as guinea pigs. Who does that? That's like going, You know, if I was a gun manufacturer and I have a new machine gun, you know what I would do? I would sell it on the streets and let everybody kill everybody just to see if those guns work. No, that's not how we figure out how things work. So that entire diabolical plan, like, let's go ahead and distribute and let normal people cause chaos before we sell it to the military. That was not kosher for me. That was that was the furthest thing. If I was a master villain, I would not be even sharing that secret formula or revealing it to the world to possibly, like, it goes on social media or the news.
You can,
Yeah.
no, you can. Somebody could easily take that and take it to another company and have it replicated.
Yeah.
But I guess if you can say that, oh, they can't replicate it because they don't have the girl, but at the same time, you know, a lot of companies didn't have the entire sequence from InGen for dinosaurs, and yet here they are. They were still trying to get the formula. It makes no sense that there weren't A, rival buyers, or B, that they had like you know, countries or black market people like, oh, we're gonna sell this to country A, B, or C so that they can win their civil war or whatever. And that would have made a little bit more sense. Or as when you're talking about the villains, I mean, oh wow, he's this giant monster, and it was no payoff whatsoever, and it was just kind of a waste of making him so like dark and sadistic and just kind of like appearing here and there. And then here comes this lady, and you know, you'd expect it to at the end be like, oh, you think you got me cornered or whatever, and then she takes a pill or two, and then she's a tentacle monster. Well, you know, because tentacle monsters are in, and she was, you know, she would fight Jamie Foxx or something, you know, both powered up. I would have maybe even liked that a little bit more, but no, none of it. She just perished away. No, she got hit by a crane.
Yeah. I think it was like the least satisfying death for a villain. Like, she didn't even bother to taking the pill herself or something like that.
No.
you you would think, you know. And the funniest thing is, I don't even remember her dying. I was like scratching my head, like, did she die, or did I miss it? Did I blink, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So
she got hit by a crane. It was almost like an afterthought, kind of, as everybody was dying. It was like, bam! It was like, oh, that's it. It's over. Oh, okay.
hey, here's the thing, because you could tell that I was only half paying attention through this. There was that woman from South America who was buying the drugs with a case of pills. Did she die, or did she escape that huge basement fight scene?
You know what? I'm not sure. I would have to go back and look.
This is how much. This is how poorly developed this film was because all I remember was they got into the elevator, but there were so many things, because Jamie Foxx was like wrestling like everybody, and it didn't make any sense because everybody was shooting everybody in that room
and we didn't even get to see it. We saw it from the point of view of a frosted window.
Yeah, and all I remember was that woman who's the buyer managed to get to the elevator, but then I don't know what happened. Like, did the elevator close and she escaped, or did someone accidentally shoot them inside the elevator? You know what? I have no idea.
Project Power 2.
Yeah. Well, the worst thing is I don't care.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's where I find the flaws to be funny in a film like this, and I think it's because the directors. I want to say they directed a film a few years ago. I don't know if you heard of it. I'm going to look it up right now. They directed a film, and it was sort of like a similar pacing. They directed Nerve. Have you heard of that?
No, I actually haven't seen that.
Oh, okay, so Nerve was starring Emma Roberts and Dave Franco, and that was like a film where, like, they kind of like take like Truth or Dare challenges. They have to do like social media and all this kind of stuff, and the dare keeps on getting harder and harder and harder. And if they accomplish all the dares, then they win so much money. it was that type of pacing. It was like trying to get to that crescendo. These two directors also did a Paranormal Activity 3.
Oh, okay. That was the worst of them
Yeah, so
up until that point.
I know I should have looked them up before I saw the movie, but it was just the pacing was wrong, the CGI was wrong,
Yeah.
the story was wrong. But anyways, I guess we could easily conclude this. Manny, what's your overall grade for Project Power on Netflix?
Oh my God. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a D, just a straight D. I don't like. I haven't given anyone an F, so I'm not comfortable with it yet. But I'm gonna give them. They turned in an assignment, and it was complete, but it wasn't what I was looking for at all. So I gotta give it a D, and that's like a 63% D, almost a D minus.
Okay. So it's almost it was like teetering between D minus and D. But
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll give you my assessment. I too will give it a D. Not the same reasons probably that with Manny, is because I was kind of bored, and I'll be honest with you, I watched this movie on fast forward.
Did you?
Meaning I was like literally just like jumping. I was like going, okay, I'm bored with this scene. And then they jump 2 to 3 minutes ahead. And then I'm like, I'm bored with this scene. Then I jump. And then all of a sudden I was like, did that person die? And then I rewind back and forth. That's how much interest I actually have. And the reason why is because this movie, I think I looked it up, was 1 hour and 53 minutes.
It's long, yeah.
It was way too long for an action film that didn't really accomplish anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, there was no scenes that I would actually come out and say, you know what? A week from now, I will remember how that fire guy died in the bed. Like the most disturbing scene wasn't even the scene where Jamie Foxx killed 100 mercenaries with, disintegrating them or anything like that. I thought the most disturbing scene was the fact that they trapped this woman, giving her the pill to become Frost Woman, and then somehow they just like left her refrigerated or whatever it is, and no one bothered to shoot the window. In the middle of a gunfight, I never understood is that if there's bullets flying in every direction and half the room is this glass container where this woman is trapped in there.
Well, I do know that they did mention that it was a government built bubble, so it was supposed to be able to contain quite a bit. So if it's bulletproof, I actually kind of understand that point.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it was just a little bit too much. But I'm giving a D, not because you thought it was unbearable. It's because I stopped caring about the movie probably 20 minutes into the
I watched it in 2 sittings. I started it last night. I was finishing a piece up at midnight, and then I didn't feel compelled to keep watching it. I was like, I'm going to finish this in the morning. So that should say something right there too.
It did. And you know what's the saddest part? I was more entertained with that Netflix movie that came out last week. That was the dancing movie with Charisma Carpenter.
I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed that too.
Okay.
Just as a cookie cutter, I knew it was gonna happen, but I enjoyed the ride.
And we're not even reviewing that, but I enjoyed that movie a whole lot better than this one. It's actually kind of funny. So anyway, that's our assessment for Project Power. Agree, disagree, give us a thumbs up, click like or subscribe, and leave us a comment. And until next time, we're going to come up with more of these spoiler reviews. And as you can tell, if it's bad, we're going to be honest about it.
I'll let you know.
All right.